Welcome back to the deep dive. Today, we are strapping ourselves into maybe the fastest, certainly the noisiest hot rod Detroit ever produced. We're speeding back to the late 60s.
Yeah, back to examine a band whose existence was just
Yeah,
so explosive. They basically burned themselves out in, what, 3 short years?
exactly. But their sound, I mean, it still echoes, right? Distorted and loud in pretty much every garage and punk riff you hear today.
Absolutely. We are talking, of course, about the Motor City 5, the MC5.
That's right. And when you asked us to unpack the history of the MC5, you weren't just asking about, a band.
No, not at all. It's like asking for the origin story of protest rock, of hard rock, even punk itself. It's all there, wrapped up in one really volatile package.
They're pretty much unanimously cited as pioneers, proto-punk, garage rock. And that blend, that incredible blend of radical leftist politics with just the most unbelievably urgent, explosive sound.
Yeah, it's quite the mix.
So the goal of our deep dive today is really to untangle this paradox, isn't it? We need to trace their journey right from the start in Lincoln Park, Michigan, through that controversial, kind of anarchic peak, their almost immediate commercial collapse.
Which is spectacular.
It really was. And then the long, really fascinating legacy that was dominated, I think it's fair to say, by the spiritual and musical engine of the band, Wayne Kramer.
Definitely Kramer.
Yeah.
And that legacy, well, it only reached its absolute final, really heart-wrenching chapter just this year, 2024.
It's a compelling story, but also, tragic. We're focusing on that classic lineup, Rob Tyner on vocals.
Unmistakable voice.
The revolutionary dual guitar attack, you have to call it that, of Wayne Kramer and Fred Sonic Smith.
Sonic, yeah, what a pair.
Michael Davis holding down that frantic bottom end on bass and Dennis Thompson just pounding away on the drums.
The classic 5. Motor City 5.
So here's the tension, the thing that grabs you right away. How does a band that was so universally praised, I mean, they landed on the cover of Rolling Stone in January '69 before their debut album even dropped.
Which is unheard of then. Usually reserved for, like, established megastars. Dylan, the Beatles.
Right. So how does that band implode so spectacularly? Dropped by 2 labels, disbanded completely by '72. It just seems abrupt.
Well, I think it speaks to the sheer incompatibility, doesn't it? Their radical politics, their completely uncompromising musical vision.
Yeah.
It just didn't mesh with the commercial music industry of the time. Not even close.
It was oil and water.
Pretty much. As Tom Morello famously said, they basically invented punk rock. Parade listed them as one of the best rock bands ever. VH1 called them one of the greatest hard rock artists.
Why praise?
And yet,
Yeah.
as one writer put it, they were like a catastrophic force of nature. But, forces of nature aren't usually great at filing quarterly reports.
Oh, good point. So to understand that force, we have to dig into the foundations, the roots.
Absolutely. Let's go back to Detroit.
Okay, let's unpack those earliest roots. Our first major stop, the formation, those Motor City origins, and some genuinely surprising musical influences that shaped them between, say, '63 and '67.
It really starts with a teenage friendship, like so many bands. 2 guitarists. Wayne Kramer, born Wayne Stanley Combs, but he adopted Kramer to sort of forge his own identity,
Right, separate from the family name.
Yeah. And Fred Smith. They were just kids, completely bonded by speed and energy.
And what were they listening to? What was fueling that energy?
Well, initially it was pure Americana, really. R&B, classic blues, definitely Chuck Berry, the driving instrumentals of Dick Dale, the Ventures.
Just rock stuff.
Yeah, that energy. And the sheer rebellion of garage rock. It was all about music that moved fast, prioritized raw attack over, polish.
They started in different bands, right? Kramer had the Bounty Hunters.
Smith had the Vibratones. Little local garage bands. But eventually the most serious players kind of merged under the Bounty Hunters name.
And they were good.
Oh yeah, they were tight. Good enough and popular enough locally around Detroit that they actually managed to quit their day jobs, which was a huge deal for teenagers in the mid-'60s.
Definitely. So when does the classic lineup really come together?
This is where it solidifies. Rob Derminer initially auditions as a bassist, believe it or not.
Really? Not vocals?
Not initially.
Yeah.
But they quickly recognized his immense natural talent was as a frontman. He just had this commanding, almost shamanistic stage presence and this booming baritone voice that showed his deep love for American soul and gospel.
Wow. And it's Derminer who becomes Rob Tyner, right?
Exactly. He becomes kind of the architect of the band's intellectual identity. He rechristens himself Rob Tyner, taking the surname not from some rock star, but from John Coltrane's legendary pianist, McCoy Tyner.
That's a statement in itself, isn't it? Choosing a jazz name?
It really is. And it was Tyner who coined the famous moniker,
Yeah.
MC5, short for Motor City 5, explicitly rooting them in that Detroit identity.
Okay, so Tyner's in on vocals, Kramer and Smith on guitars, then Davis and Thompson.
Yeah, Michael Davis joins on bass, Dennis Thompson comes in on drums around 65. That completes the explosive rhythm section. The classic lineup was set.
But what makes their sound so distinctive? What moves them beyond just, standard good garage rock?
It's exactly that influence Tyner signaled with his name change. The unexpected, chaotic fire of free jazz.
Okay, this is the crucial twist, I think, because you're talking Detroit. Epicenter of Motown, heavy blues, muscle car culture.
Right. But Smith and Kramer, they weren't just listening to the radio hits. They were obsessively soaking up these avant-garde free jazz giants. Albert Ayler, Archie Shepp, Sun Ra.
Sun Ra, the orchestra guy.
The very same. And the late ecstatic period of John Coltrane.
So what did they take from that? It seems so far removed from rock and roll.
They admired the sheer noise, the chaotic abandon of that scene. The ecstatic, high-pitched squealing of Ayler's saxophone, the way it just rejected traditional melody for pure primal expression. They recognized that feeling, that sort of imminent collapse in the music, and they basically asked, why can't we do that on electric guitars?
So they literally tried to imitate squealing saxophones and dissonant horns on guitars.
Pretty much. How do you achieve that technically? Well, it resulted in their incredibly unique, interlocking, dual guitar style.
Okay, how did that work?
They used feedback, heavy distortion, extended techniques, stuff that was almost unheard of in rock music at the time. Kramer's lead playing became known for this irregular, really heavy vibrato, unique scales, often just pushing into pure noise.
And Smith. Fred Sonic Smith wasn't just strumming chords, though.
No way. His role was just as vital. He wasn't just rhythm. His part provided this explosive, often dissonant textural energy, apparently inspired by Sonny Sherrick.
Ah, another jazz connection. One of the few electric guitarists really in that free jazz world.
Exactly. So together, they built this wall of sound that was somehow both R&B tight and avant-garde chaotic. It's a hell of a combination.
You can really hear that fusion on Starship, right?
Oh, absolutely. The core of that song is just pure electric chaos. But it was so directly influenced by the spiritual, cosmic vibe of Sun Ra.
That they credited him.
They gave him a co-credit.
Yeah.
Because the lyrics were actually cribbed from one of Ra's cosmic poems. Think about that.
Yeah.
A rock band giving songwriting credit to a jazz mystic. That shows you how deep that influence ran.
Wow. So that cocktail high-speed R&B foundation overlaid with the improvisational, chaotic urgency of free jazz, it didn't just create a new sound.
It created a reputation. A massive one.
How so?
Well, they played almost nightly around Detroit.
Yeah.
And they developed this utterly blistering live reputation. They weren't just playing music, they were causing an event.
Like dangerous.
Kinda, yeah. They regularly drew sold-out crowds, like 1,000 people or more. And this was years before they were nationally famous at all.
The contemporary descriptions of their shows are pretty wild. I read one where Robert Bixby called their sound a catastrophic force of nature the band was barely able to control.
That phrase, catastrophic force of nature, it really sums it up. The risk, the energy, the feeling, it could all fall apart at any second.
And didn't Don McLeese say something about the aftermath?
Yeah, he noted that fans would compare the feeling after an MC5 show to the delirious exhaustion after, quote, a street rumble or an orgy.
Yeah.
They were physically draining the audience.
Even Iggy Pop, who was, a rival but also kind of studying them.
Right, from the Stooges.
He noted that before they fully developed their own stuff, they were just a world-class cover band, doing The Who, Hendrix, The Stones with incredible intensity.
Well done.
But the moment they introduced that free jazz overlay, those really hard rock values, they transcended. They became something totally new, totally unique to Detroit.
But, a catastrophic force of nature. It needs some kind of organizational force behind it, right?
Right.
Or at least someone trying to channel it.
Which brings us squarely into the political whirlwind that really defined their short initial career.
Yeah, enter John Sinclair.
Exactly. Section 3, radical politics, the infamous live debut, and the controversy that got them booted off Elektra Records.
So the band's tearing up Detroit musically, but they need someone to handle the chaos, business-wise. And that leads them to John Sinclair.
How did that connection happen?
Kramer was looking for a manager. Rob Tyner knew Sinclair. He was a radical left-wing writer, a bit older, already deep in the Detroit counterculture scene. Sinclair becomes their manager, calling his enterprise Trans Love Energies.
And Translative Energies wasn't just like a management company, was it?
Oh, no. It was
No.
way more than that. It was a collective, a commune, and a management firm all rolled into one.
So Sinclair demanded commitment.
Total commitment to the politics, the counterculture, the communal lifestyle, just as much as the music. He became the spiritual and political mentor, especially to Kramer.
Introducing him to.
More free jazz, beat generation poetry, and this deep sense of progressive political awareness. Heavily influenced by the Marxism of the Black Panther Party, people like Fred Hampton.
Okay, so this is where they really become revolutionaries, not just musicians.
Definitely. And because of their association with the Black Panthers, founder Huey P. Newton essentially prompted Sinclair to establish the White Panther Party.
Right, the WPP. What was their deal?
It was envisioned as a militant leftist organization made up of white people whose mission was explicitly to assist the Black Panthers in the revolution. They were serious.
Did they have like a manifesto?
Oh, yeah. A 10-point program.
Yeah.
Included things like total release of all political prisoners and free dope as a tool for cultural change.
Wow. Okay.
And the band's association with Sinclair and the WPP was incredibly costly in the long run. It ultimately led to Sinclair's infamous jail sentence, 10 years for 2 joints.
Which became a massive counterculture cause, the Free John Sinclair movement.
Exactly. But the band didn't just talk the talk. They walked the walk, integrating this politics right into their live shows, making them intentionally provocative and, yeah, frankly, dangerous.
How so? What did they do on stage?
The early stage show was pure radical theater. Members would actually appear on stage carrying unloaded rifles.
Seriously? Rifles?
Yeah. The implication was clear. The revolution is here, or it's coming. And at the climax of some shows, an unseen sniper would fire a blank round, and Tyner would dramatically collapse on stage.
That's intense political theater, especially in the late 60s.
Super intense, amplified by the fact that the band members were all using heavy psychedelics, apparently.
Oh.
Magnifying the intensity, blurring that line between performance and, well, reality.
And that political fervor, that theatricality, it really came to a head in 68, didn't it? At the Democratic National Convention protests in Chicago.
Yeah, the DNC, which devolves into what many people rightly called a police riot. The MC5's appearance there is absolutely foundational to their whole myth.
It's a pivotal moment in American counterculture history, really.
Absolutely. And the MC5 was the only major musical band to initially show up and play during the protests organized by the Yippies, the Youth International Party.
What about other bands? Weren't people like Neil Young supposed to be there?
Yeah, Neil Young apparently arrived but refused to play because of the chaos, the escalating violence. But the MC5, they stayed. They played.
And what's the atmosphere like?
Toxic. Tear gas, police lines, just widespread brutality. And the MC5 essentially became the sonic soundtrack to the riot. Wayne Kramer confirmed they played for over 8 hours straight.
8 hours. In that environment.
Imagine the pressure cooker. They knew they were basically the last beacon of organized counterculture sound in that park. They just kept playing, trying to maintain the energy, fuel the protesters, even as the police were attacking people.
Anyone else play?
Apparently, only Bruce Barthol from Country Joe and the Fish, and maybe folk singer Phil Ochs, showed any willingness to perform besides the MC5. That marathon, totally anarchic performance just cemented their reputation.
Right.
These guys were the real deal. Authentic revolutionaries, not just rock stars playing at it.
And that authenticity, that raw energy, is what got them their record deal, right?
Directly. Elektra Records executive Jock Holzman and producer Bruce Botnick saw them live and realized their true power came from that interaction with the audience. That dangerous, chaotic energy was the show.
So instead of a studio album first,
they decided to record their debut, Kick Out the Jams, live at Detroit's Grande Ballroom, Halloween night and the night before, October 30th and 31st, 1968.
And it's arguably the most powerful, energetic live album ever made. Just pure lightning in a bottle. It captured them at their absolute raw revolutionary peak.
Totally. The album's packed with proto-punk classics. The title track, obviously, Rocket Reducer Nil 62, Ramalama Fafa.
So title.
The extended jam-based Sun Ra tribute, Starship. Plus that incredible extended cover of John Lee Hooker's Motor City is Burning.
Where Tyner explicitly praises the Black Panthers' role during the 67 Detroit riots?
Yeah, making their political alignment absolutely undeniable. Right there on the record.
But the real controversy wasn't just the politics, was it? It was the language.
Exactly. That rallying cry in the title track, which was essential to their identity, urging the audience to break through cultural boundaries, was famously, "Kick out the jams, motherfuckers."
Which probably didn't go over well in 1969.
Not with the establishment, no. That combined with Sinclair's fiercely inflammatory liner notes. It caused an immediate massive headache for Elektra Records.
So the label tried to clean it up?
They attempted damage control. They put out a censored single version for radio play that replaced the offending word with brothers and sisters.
How did the band feel about that?
Well, Rob Tyner later said that edited version was released without any group consensus.
Yeah.
It basically undermined their whole anti-establishment stance, didn't it?
Yeah, kind of defeats the purpose.
But the album itself actually sold pretty well for a debut. Over 100,000 copies, peaked at number 30 on the Billboard chart in May '69. The problem wasn't sales initially, it was the morality war being waged against them.
And the real breaking point came back home in Detroit with the Hudson's department store chain.
Right. Hudson's refused to stock Kick Out the Jams because of the profanity, standard censorship move. But the MC5's response: pure, unadulterated provocation, zero compromise.
This is where that clash between radical idealism and terrible business sense really comes into play.
Totally. They took out a full-page ad in the Detroit underground paper, Fifth Estate. The ad proclaimed, "Stick alive with the MC5 and fuck Hudson's."
Oh, wow.
And crucially, they also slapped Elektra Records' logo prominently on that ad.
Ouch. So they basically forced their record label to take a side in this revolutionary dispute with a major retailer.
Exactly. Faced with a massive retail boycott, Hudson's retaliated by pulling all Elektra records from their stores, not just MC5. Jack Holtzman, the head of Elektra, felt he had no choice. He dropped the MC5. They were just too hot, too controversial to handle.
So that whole debut era cover of Rolling Stone top 30 album, it all collapsed in just a matter of months.
Gone. Poof. But the band, still kind of riding high in their reputation, they quickly signed with Atlantic Records, which moves us into their short-lived studio era.
Right. That transition leads us into Section 4, the studio years and disintegration, covering 1970 to 72. And the story of their two Atlantic albums is really, it's a story of diminishing returns, commercially, but also this fascinating conflict over artistic control.
Yeah, their second album, back in the USA, released in 1970, was a massive, radical change in direction. Atlantic paired them with producer Jon Landau.
Jon Landau, who would later become famous working with Bruce Springsteen, right?
The same guy. And Landau had a very specific vision. He was determined to strip away the sprawling, chaotic sludge of the live show. He saw potential for a much tighter, stripped-down rock sound.
Less jam, more punch.
Exactly. Landau aimed for perfection, precision. Back in the USA is short, fast, intensely hard-edged, angry guitar rock. It's a deliberate prototype for the punk rock that would emerge just a few years later. The tracks average, barely 3 minutes long.
But the band, they weren't entirely happy with that, were they?
No. They felt Landau was overbearing, heavy-handed. They felt he was trying to shape the group entirely to his liking, compressing the sound so much that, apart from Tyner's unique vocals, some members felt they were barely recognizable as the same band.
So a deep conflict between the revolutionary chaos they embodied and the studio discipline Landau was demanding.
Absolutely. And the result? Mixed reviews, commercially mediocre sales. The album only peaked at number 137 on the U.S. chart, lasted just 7 weeks. The public seemed kind of confused by the abrupt shift from the raw live album to this super compressed studio sound.
Meanwhile, the internal pressure must have been immense. Heavy touring.
Escalating drug use.
And their relationship with their mentor, John Sinclair, was unraveling too.
Yeah, that political alienation was becoming really clear. Sinclair was in jail, right? And despite being so deeply connected to his cause, when the big John Sinclair Freedom Rally was organized in December '71, huge event, John Lennon played.
Right, to protest that insane 10-year sentence for 2 joints.
The MC5 were conspicuously not allowed to play.
Wait, the White Panther Party band, the guys who went to Chicago?
Yeah.
They weren't allowed at the rally for their own guy.
Apparently not. The organizing committee kept them off the stage. It suggests their radicalism, which was once their calling card, had maybe become too controversial, even for the counterculture they helped inspire. Or maybe there were other internal politics at play.
Wow. So they tried to correct course with their final original record, High Time, in '71.
Yeah, they broke with Landau, brought in Jeffrey Haslam, and they regained much more creative control over the production this time.
And ironically, this became the best reviewed of their original records, didn't it?
It did. The critics liked it. And the band seemed satisfied because they were finally allowed to stretch out musically again, to experiment more.
You can hear that musical expansion on tracks like Future Now, which is 10 minutes long.
And Skunk, sonically speaking, which has that Sun Ra influence bubbling up again. They were trying to synthesize their early chaos with some of that newfound studio discipline, maybe?
But critical acclaim doesn't always pay the bills, does it?
Unfortunately not. Sales were worse than ever. Partly because Atlantic Records apparently failed to promote the album adequately. It only peaked at number 191.
And that financial reality was the final straw for Atlantic.
Yep, both studio albums had lost money for the label. Atlantic dropped them, and the internal disintegration followed almost immediately.
Who was the first casualty?
Michael Davis, the bassist. He was forced out in February '72, largely due to his increasing heroin use, which was making him unreliable.
That's tough.
The remaining trio, Kramer, Smith, Thompson, plus some touring musicians, they did manage one final recording session in London for a film soundtrack called Gold.
Right, they tracked 3 songs, Gold, Train Music, and Inside Out.
But that was truly their last gasp as a recording unit.
And the end came quickly, and pretty tragically. The remaining group, basically just a touring shell, briefly reunited for one final show. New Year's Eve, December 31st, 1972, back at the Grand Ballroom.
The same place where, just a few years earlier, thousands of screaming fans had packed in to record Kick Out the Jam.
And this time?
Poorly attended. Maybe a few dozen people. Kramer, apparently distraught, struggling with his own addiction issues, just left the stage after a few songs.
Oh, man.
And the band disbanded immediately after that. Done.
It's the ultimate tragic footnote, isn't it? The band that defined live energy, ending their career playing to an almost empty room.
Yeah, it's rough.
And that tragedy leads us directly into Section 5, post-breakup lives, incarceration, and redemption, covering roughly 73 through 91. The band scattered, and their paths couldn't have been more different, especially Wayne Kramer's.
Yeah, let's start with the others first, maybe. Fred Sonic Smith, he formed a new band called Ascension. Briefly included Thompson on drums and even Davis on piano, oddly enough.
Then he formed Sonic's Rendezvous Band, right? Which became kind of legendary in Detroit.
Early legendary, mostly for only releasing one initial single, The Amazing City Slang, but maintaining this ferocious live reputation for years. Hugely influential locally.
And more famously, perhaps, Smith married singer Patti Smith.
Right. He became a crucial collaborator for her, co-writing all the songs on her 1988 album Dream of Life, including that powerhouse anthem, People Have the Power.
Then he kind of retired from music.
Yeah, basically retired to raise their family.
Yeah.
And then, sadly, died of heart failure in 1994. Way too young.
What about Rob Tyner?
Tyner also had a significant post-MC5 career. Performed solo, briefly fronted something called the New MC5. He became a successful producer, manager, promoter in the Detroit scene, released a well-regarded album, Blood Brothers, in 1990.
And then he also
died tragically young. Heart attack in 1991, age 46. Just devastating losses.
And Michael Davis, the bassist who was forced out.
He eventually joined another Detroit band, Destroy All Monsters, featuring members of the Stooges and other scene deaths. Stayed active in the local scene for years.
Okay, but the most dramatic story, the one with the biggest ups and downs, really belongs to Wayne Kramer.
Without a doubt. Having lost his band, his identity, his whole political mission, he just spiraled downwards. He admits quite openly he became basically nothing more than a small-time Detroit criminal.
And that decline culminated in
1975, he was caught selling drugs to undercover federal agents. Convicted. Sentenced to 4 years in federal prison at FMC Lexington, Kentucky.
Wow. That sounds like the absolute bottom. The revolutionary, jailed by the very system he despised.
It does. But prison, specifically FMC Lexington, became maybe the single most important setting for his musical and personal redemption. It's an incredible turnaround.
How? What happened there?
The irony is just profound, isn't it? The self-proclaimed white revolutionary who fought alongside Black Panther ideals finds his musical structure, his salvation, studying bebop with a jazz veteran while locked away by the system he hated.
Who is the jazz veteran?
While he was incarcerated, Kramer befriended Red Rodney.
Red Rodney, the trumpeter. Played with Charlie Parker.
The legendary Red Rodney, yeah.
Yes.
Former member of the iconic Charlie Parker Quintet. Rodney became Kramer's mentor. Kramer called him his musical father. They spent their prison time studying theory, composition, playing together in the prison band, which was called Street Sounds.
That's amazing. A bebop legend teaching guitar to the proto-punk pioneer in prison.
It's unbelievable. And that mentorship was foundational. When Kramer got out in 1979, he immediately returned to music. Toured solo, played with Johnny Thunders in the kind of ill-fated band Gang War.
Oh, yeah, that must have been volatile.
You'd imagine. And notably, he joined as their first studio and touring guitarist, played on their album, and that hit single Wheel Me Out.
But he still struggled with addiction for a while.
Oh, yeah. Spent much of the 80s battling it. Worked straight jobs. He was a carpenter for a bit, I read. Really focused on recovery. And by 1998, Kramer successfully stopped using alcohol and illegal drugs entirely. A complete transformation.
It's essential here, I think, to pause and just reflect on how powerful Kramer's influence already was on the global punk scene, even while he was locked up.
Absolutely. The movement he helped inspire, across the Atlantic in the UK, they paid tribute to him.
You're talking about The Clash.
Exactly. The Clash released the song Jail Guitar Doors as the B-side to their single Clash City Rockers. It was a direct, explicit homage to Kramer's drug troubles and his incarceration, immortalizing his struggle right there in the punk canon.
The opening lines are so specific, aren't they? Let me tell you about Wayne and his deals of cocaine. Then the DEA locked him away.
Yeah. That tribute didn't just highlight his struggles, it cemented his legendary status. A martyr, a pioneer, recognized by the bands that followed in his footsteps.
And that tribute, that song title, Jail Guitar Doors, in turn became the defining mission of Kramer's later life, didn't it?
It absolutely did. Which brings us to Section 6, Reunions, Legacy, and the Final Chapter, covering roughly 1992 right up to the present day.
So were there reunions of the actual MC5?
There were attempts, yeah. The first public reunion of the surviving members, Kramer, Smith, Davis, and Thompson, was actually an unbilled, short set, maybe 30 minutes, in 1992, at a tribute concert for Rob Tyner in Detroit after he passed away.
Just a brief flicker then.
Yeah. After Fred Smith died in 94, the remaining three, Davis, Kramer, and Thompson, reformed more formally in 2003. They toured pretty extensively for almost a decade under the name DKTMC5.
DKT Davis, Kramer, Thompson. Explicitly.
Yeah, exactly. They toured with this fantastic rotating cast of guests, which really showed the reverence people had for the band. Folks like Handsome Dick Manitoba from The Dictators on lead vocals.
Wow, good fit.
And Gilby Clarke from Guns N' Roses playing rhythm guitar, standing in for Fred Smith. That lineup lasted until Michael Davis sadly died of liver failure in 2012. He was 68.
Another loss. So Kramer kept the legacy alive after that.
He did. In 2018, he launched the really ambitious MC50 tour, celebrating the 50th anniversary of Kick Out the Jams. And this is a true all-star lineup. Rock heavyweights like Kim Thayil and Matt Cameron from Soundgarden.
Soundgarden guys, nice.
And Billy Gould from Faith No More on bass.
But significantly, that massive anniversary tour, which ran into early 2020, it didn't include the original drummer, Dennis Thompson.
Right, which kind of highlights the ongoing logistical, maybe personal complications of getting the remaining original members together consistently.
But Wayne Kramer's most enduring legacy, maybe outside the music itself, the thing that really defines his second act, is that activism, directly inspired by the Clash song.
Jail Guitar Doors. In 2009, Kramer, along with the British musician Billy Bragg, and Kramer's wife, Margaret Saadi Kramer, co-founded Jail Guitar Doors USA.
And the mission?
Directly inspired by the Clash's tribute, provide musical instruments and music lessons to prison inmates across the country, giving people inside the same kind of outlet and structure that have helped save him.
That's incredibly powerful, turning his own experience into that.
Intensely personal work. Kramer became incredibly active, basically touring prisons instead of concert halls, visited over 100 facilities across the U.S., turning his criminal downfall into this mission for musical rehabilitation.
And his later career also saw him branch out, didn't it? Film and TV composition.
Yeah, using his unique skills in a totally new context. He scored comedies like Talladega Nights, which actually featured his solo track, Edge of the Switchblade.
Oh, yeah.
And the documentary Hacking Democracy. He found a new creative avenue.
And that commitment to music theory, the stuff he learned from Red Rodney in prison.
It even manifested in a new musical direction. His 2014 jazz album, Lexington, which was inspired by a documentary called The Narcotic Farm, about the very prison hospital he was in.
No way.
Yeah. It reached number 6 on Billboard's top jazz charts. He was finally using that bebop training he got inside. Full circle.
His commitment to justice went even further, too. In 2020, he co-founded the KPO Center.
Right. Focusing on community arts programming and outreach, specifically targeting young people impacted by the justice system in Los Angeles. Still trying to help.
Then, in 2022, Kramer announced one last big, ambitious project.
Yeah, a tour under the banner We Are All MC5, and plans for a brand new studio album, Heavy Lifting, produced by Bob Ezrin.
The legendary Bob Ezrin, Pink Floyd, Alice Cooper.
Yeah, big name producer. This was slated to be the first proper MC5 studio album in 53 years.
Yeah.
And original drummer Dennis Thompson even participated on a couple of tracks. It seemed like a final, powerful statement was coming.
But then The final chapter for the original band members just unfolded with heartbreaking speed in 2024.
It was brutal. Wayne Kramer, the pioneer, the activist, the engine, he died on February 2nd, 2024, age 75, pancreatic cancer.
Just devastating.
And then just 2 months later, their former manager, the political lightning rod, John Sinclair, he died in April 2024.
Wow.
And then less than a month after that, Dennis Thompson, the explosive original drummer, the last surviving original member of the MC5. He died on May 8th, 2024, also age 75.
God, just bang, bang, bang. An incredible period of loss. The absolute end of the original Motor City 5.
Yeah, end of an era, truly. But there was recognition alongside the tragedy, thankfully.
Right, the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, finally.
The MC5 were inducted in the Musical Excellence category in April 2024. Long, long overdue honor.
And fulfilling Wayne Kramer's final ambition.
Heavy lifting. Their final album, the first in 53 years, was released posthumously on October 18th, 2024, completing their studio story even after Wayne and Dennis were gone.
So what does this all mean for us as we kind of head into our final thoughts here? Let's just recap that paradox of the MC5.
Okay, we've traced a band that just burned with this incredible radical idealism, right? Incorporating high art influences like free jazz into their furious garage rock.
Pioneering a sound that became punk.
Absolutely. Yet they were ultimately undone by the sheer intensity of their own political controversy, the devastating toll of drug use, and just this fundamental incompatibility with the commercial music machine.
Their legacy is huge, though, cemented by that powerful duality. They're proto-punk architects, musical geniuses on one hand.
And on the other, they fostered this profound social impact through Wayne Kramer's decades of work with jail guitar doors, turning his personal tragedy into a resource for redemption for others. It's incredible.
And that leads us to a final provocative thought for you, the listener. Something that gets right to the heart of the conflict that destroyed, yet somehow also defined, the MC5.
When you listen to their work, which album really holds their greatest influence? Where does the core MC5 power lie?
Is it in the raw, revolutionary, totally chaotic energy of that live debut, Kick Out the Jams, the album that got censored, got them dropped, but captured them at their absolute volatile political and musical peak? That sound of pure, unbridled revolution.
Or is it maybe in the compressed, fast, aggressively hard-edged studio perfection of Back in the USA? Produced by John Landau, consciously stripping away the sprawl to create this streamlined, undeniable prototype for the punk rock sound that would follow just a few years later, the sound of structured fury.
Yeah, it's a tough one. How much did the turbulent politics and the, let's face it, overbearing outside management, first Sinclair demanding revolution, then Landau demanding commercial structure, how much did that actually hinder their artistic longevity versus just defining the unique, short, bright blaze they became?
It's that debate, isn't it? Between the sound of authentic, messy revolution and the sound of a more structured, perhaps more forward-looking future. Where do you land?
We'll leave that question with you. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the history and legacy of the Motor City 5.
Kick out the jams.